The late afternoon sun hung low, casting a tired glow over the street. Dust lingered in the air as Arjun, a single father in his 40s, wrestled with the hood of his old car. His daughter Mira, only 10 years old, stood beside him with her school bag hanging from her shoulder, eyes filled with worry. They were supposed to be heading home, but the engine had given up in the middle of the road, sputtering its last breath before falling silent. A group of men stood nearby outside a tea shop, leaning lazily against the wall, sipping cups of chai, their eyes fixed on Arjun. One of them let out a mocking laugh. Well, look at the mechanic who can't even fix his own car anymore." His words carried. Across the street, sharp enough to draw the attention of passers-by, another man chimed in with a cruel smirk. "You're useless now, Arjun. No steady work, no wife to keep your house together, and barely enough to raise that little girl. What's left of you? Just scrap like that car." The others burst into laughter, their voices ringing louder than the quiet street deserved. Mira flinched at their words, her small hand tightening around her father's arm. Her head bowed, and she whispered softly, "Papa, let's just go. They're being mean." But Arjun didn't move. He kept his gaze on the engine, his jaw set, his breath steady. Inside, though, every insult cut deep. He had been a proud mechanic once, respected for his skill, trusted by neighbors to repair everything from scooters to trucks. Life had changed after his wife's passing, and the struggle of raising his daughter alone had drained more than just his wallet. It had drained how others saw him. Yet in that moment, as the men mocked, he felt a quiet fire stir. He crouched lower, peering into the engine, his hands stained with grease. Mira's frightened eyes searched his face. But when he finally looked at her, his expression softened. "Don't listen to them," he whispered, his voice calm but firm. "Your father still has hands that can build, fix, and protect. That's all that matters." She nodded silently, though her lips trembled. The men behind them laughed again, louder this time. "It's over for you, old man," one of them shouted. "You can't keep pretending you're still worth something." Arjun's hand gripped the wrench tighter, the metal pressing against his palm. He refused to answer them with words. He refused to let his daughter see him broken. He would not prove his worth with arguments or anger. He would prove it with action, the same way he had lived his whole life. As the street filled with their jeers, Arjun bent over the engine, shutting out their voices. For now, silence was his weapon. Soon, the sound of steel, sweat, and determination would speak for him. The laughter had started to die down as Arjun worked, though every so often one of the men tried to spark it again with a careless taunt. But even they could sense something shifting. Arjun's silence wasn't weakness, it was focus, and it unsettled them more than they wanted to admit. His hands moved like they had countless times in his younger days, back when he was known across the neighborhood as the man who could bring dead machines to life. Every motion was deliberate. He loosened bolts, checked the plugs, adjusted the wiring with the kind of patience only years of practice could give. Sweat rolled down his forehead, and the grease made his arms look darker under the sun. But he never paused. Mira stood close, her eyes fixed on him. At first she had been scared, holding her breath as though one wrong move would bring more ridicule. But slowly her fear turned into something else, hope. She watched the way her father worked, steady and sure, as though the mocking voices around them didn't exist. In a whisper meant only for herself, she said, "You can do this, Papa." The crowd that had gathered out of curiosity grew quieter. A few of them leaned forward, their expressions shifting from amusement to something closer to respect. The men who had mocked him now exchanged uneasy glances, their smirks fading. The longer Arjun stayed silent, the heavier their words seemed to hang in the air, unanswered and exposed. Finally, Arjun tightened one last bolt and closed the hood with a firm push. The sound echoed, commanding attention. He walked around calmly and slid into the driver's seat. For a brief moment, the whole street seemed to hold its breath. He turned the key. The engine coughed once, then roared back to life with a deep, steady growl. The sound was strong, powerful, undeniable. It cut through the silence sharper than any insult ever could. The men who had mocked him froze. Their laughter was gone, their pride swallowed by the undeniable proof of his skill. Some of the onlookers even let out soft murmurs of admiration. Arjun stepped out slowly, wiping his hands on a rag, his expression calm. He did not look victorious, only steady, as though this was exactly what he had expected all along. He met their eyes finally, his voice low but firm. "Useless men don't raise daughters who still believe in them," he said. His words landed heavier than the roar of the engine, leaving no space for reply. Mira ran into his arms, hugging him tightly, her face glowing with pride. "I knew you could fix it, Papa," she whispered. He placed his hand gently on her head, a faint smile touching his lips. The crowd dispersed, and the mockers stepped back in shame. For Arjun, the victory wasn't in silencing them. It was in proving to his daughter once again that her father was far from broken. The engine's hum and her embrace were all the triumph he needed.